Last November, I set out to build what I thought would be the world's coolest Honda NSX. And after a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of money spent, this is what we have ended up with so far. First thing this morning, I want to work on getting a bunch of stuff underneath the car assembled. Brake lines, ABS lines, coolant lines. You got to remember, the engine is in the back of the car, the radiator is in the front of the car, so there's lines that run all over this thing, and we need to get all of that installed before it's too late, and we have a bunch of other parts and components in the way. So here we have a plethora of different stuff. All this here is the coolant pipes and hoses that run from the front to the back. The black lines you see here, those are all the brake lines that run from the ABS pump up front to the back of the car. And these two long aluminum pipes here, those are both for the air conditioning. Pipe by pipe, hose by hose. We're gonna go through, get all this cleaned up. I don't see any reason to recoat anything. It's all pretty much bare aluminum. So if we can get all that staining removed, we'll be good to go. Everything is gonna start off with degreaser, and then all of the bare aluminum is going to be aluminum brightened using stuff I get right here from Napa. Seems to work great. Now that's what this piece used to look like, and here's how it looks now. So it looks a lot better, but there is a decent amount of pitting that the only way to get that out is either A, replace it, which I'm not gonna do because this piece is probably a lot of money, or B, slop it in the blast cabinet and hit it with glass bead. This here is a before, and that's what we ended up with. 800,000 times better. Last thing before assembly are the AC lines. Now, unfortunately, I cannot glass bead these as we have this rubberized sleeve on it. So degreaser, aluminum brightener should do the trick. The first install is going to be the brake line assembly, and then all the AC lines, and then all of the coolant lines. I forgot the brake lines actually go in the cabin on this car, not underneath. So let's do the AC lines. One more important part that runs from the front to the back is the battery cable. On the NSX, the battery sits in the front, and of course the starter is on the engine in the back. I'm gonna go through and retape all the joints. As you can see, they're pretty hammered. So we'll peel this tape off, retape it so it looks like that, and this can also go on. Battery cable and the AC lines are done. Now I made a very big mistake when disassembling this car. I didn't take note or photos or anything of how any of the brackets that I'm currently installing, where they sit, how they sit, any of that. So I'm completely having to guess. A lot of times I get it wrong and I have to go back and redo it. But so far, this thing is turning out phenomenal, as you can see. Let's knock out the radiator piping. The parts to install underneath the car never ends. We also have the rear e-brake cables, which go through those little holes right up there. So I may have to pull some stuff back out. Hopefully not though. The car is back on the ground. Let's see about getting this whole assembly installed. Initially, I thought the center line, the big pipe right here, was for some sort of evap stuff, which of course wouldn't really work with this setup, but that's actually for the brake booster. So that'll connect the intake and it runs all the way through, and then it'll connect up here to the brake booster. I almost removed that. I'm sure glad I didn't. The other day I was working on this trunk wiring harness. I'm gonna remove the harness, and there's actually quite a few things in this harness that we do not need. Two things. For starters, these are for the side marker lights on the rear quarter panels. I will be deleting those as they are freaking ugly, so we can go ahead and pull this out of the harness. And then this car will have deleted ABS, so all of the wiring for these ABS sensors we do not need. All of that is what I removed, and after some fresh loom, this is how the harness looks. Not bad for a bit of split loom and some tape. That's what I ended up with. Much cleaner. Before it was just running along the floor. Now it's actually tucked up underneath here. I wish I could have tucked that center section, but with that latch back there, unfortunately it wouldn't fit. Overall, looks nice and kept the trunk clean like I wanted it. I'm gonna move on to finishing up and completing the cooling system on the car. So we have 3 pipes, 3 hoses that need to be built and completed. Hose number 1 over there, that runs down to the water pump. This middle pipe, 16 AN, that runs to the cylinder head. That goes to the top of the radiator. The other one goes to the bottom. And then this one right here, from the factory, runs to the heater core. And from the factory, runs to the cylinder head. So what we're gonna do is work on this one first. I'm gonna convert that to a 10 AN, and this is gonna run to the K-tuned water neck right there. I'm trying to simulate how the factory did it. Of course, the factory knows best. I was going to tee that into the hose. There's probably a reason Honda didn't do that. So I'm just gonna replicate how they had it. This to the head. Now, unfortunately, I do need to pull this pipe off, cut this, weld the 10 AN bung onto that, and we can get this reinstalled. Line number 1 is complete. So that one connects to the hard pipe, goes underneath the car, comes out here, and runs over to the heater core. Now let's go ahead and knock out the 2 16 AN lines. This one to here, this one down to the water pump. I do need to pull the intake manifold off to do that properly. When you buy a thermostat housing, one of these swivel ones, they come with a 190 degree. I like to go down to a 180, and then on the 180 degree, I pull out the little failsafe and drill that hole to a 3/16. And when you install this, you want that hole in the highest position possible. So in the 12 o'clock position, it's gonna make bleeding the cooling system a whole lot easier if that is as high as possible. All 3 lines are done, thermostat's in. Before I call it 100% done, we need an expansion tank or a coolant overflow tank. The factory one is very ugly. It would still fit. I found this stainless one online, $30, and it's gonna look really nice in the bay. Let's get this mounted up, plumbed, and then it's official. We're done. Expansion tank is done. I did have to weld on one mount down there. That one was already there, so that thing turned out absolutely perfect. Love how it looks. Beautiful stainless in the bay, matches everything else that we have going on. Now, of course, later on, I do need to go ahead and plumb in the air to water cooler. So we're gonna have 10 AN lines that run from this all the way to the front of the car for the heat exchanger or heat exchangers. Unsure what I'm gonna do there. We will have a pump to pump the water through the system, and an ice box as well, which I think the ice box is most likely going to go in the front. I was going to put it back here, but as you guys have seen, there's already so much weight in the back. So if I could transfer a little bit to the front so we don't do wheelies everywhere, that would be great. A ton more progress made today on the NSX. Very, very excited with how this thing is coming out. I would say it's my cleanest build yet, but it's hard to compare to the Evo. Those two are my cleanest builds yet. Of course, taking a few of the things I learned from that project, applying them to this, so maybe this is a little bit cleaner. Now I may have to take a few day hiatus from the NSX build, as we do need to wait on a few more packages, a few more parts to show up to continue onward. I need to get the fuel system done, I need to get ECU stuff sorted out, engine wiring harness, and we need a few more parts in to get all that done.